I have ADHD. Now what this means is look a squirrel. What that also means is it's hard for me to focus on big bowls of text. I didn't do well in school because, I mean, sitting down in front of a social studies textbook and like reading just big books, it just didn't do anything for me. It didn't help me retain information, didn't help me learn and grow as a person. It didn't help me with anything. So, with GameMaker, since I'm a very visual person, the drag and drop interface is very helpful for someone who who can't focus particularly well with me. So what I'm going to do, I guess I should probably explain who I am first. Does anybody here know who I am? Okay. You don't count. My name is Ruth. I am an independent video game developer. I have no understanding. So I feel like I'm proud of whatever this is. I've been developing with GameMaker for years, ever since GameMaker 6. And I got pretty good at it after years of doing it, to the point that I took, the company that makes it took notice of my work, and now I have a nice relationship with them. And again, I got my cool Scotland trip out of it. Again, totally worth visiting Scotland if you ever get a chance. I've just found that despite the fact that there are technically more powerful and hypothetically better ways of programming, Unity is very popular now. If you're good with C# as a language, a lot of people will still use Torque, that kind of stuff. But for me, this is really the cat's meow, because it just caters to all of my talents and faults as a person and wants as a game developer. And it might do the same for you as it does for many other people. It is also, especially comparative to other engines, relatively cheap. It is, I think it's like 100 or, it's on sale right now, it's like 25% off or something for GameMaker. And there are like big packages you can add onto it to export to like iOS and Android and all that kind of stuff. But long story short, it's basically an all-in-one package where if you have the whole GameMaker, you can build a game in GameMaker, and then you can export it to Mac, PC, Android, iPhone, iPad devices, and even they've got a workshop going in for, I think PS Vita, working on that. A bunch of other things are in the works, and I'm not really super sure what I'm allowed to talk about, so I'm going to keep it to the basics in that regard. But it is a phenomenal way for someone to learn game development, and even if you don't really love it and you're like, well, it's cool, it can at least help you learn, and then you can pick up and move on to something you like better if you really do like your Torque or something. So, worst case scenario for you, it's a learning tool. Best case scenario, it's your favorite engine, and you work with your friend. So, that's that. All right, I'm going to start up a new file here. We're going to go over, this is your welcome screen. Let's see. Boom. Right there, there it is. I was happy, that was their present to me when I left Scotland, was they added my name to the contribution list. Because when it comes to drag and drop programming, I contribute a lot to their design and what they're doing with it. And in fact, I'll have a very direct hand in it when they start programming the from scratch new GameMaker. They have allowed me to really be hands-on with that. And in fact, I think unless something falls through, I should actually be making all of the drag and drop icons for it too, for them. So perhaps that will end up going that way. But anyways, this is your welcome screen. This just gives you, it stores in back of all of the things you most recently worked on, so you can just click on something and it'll load it up right from the get-go. I'm kind of old school with my stuff, so I just find the project file I want to open and just double click on it, and of course it'll just open it in GameMaker. So I won't ever go through this, but it might be very handy for you. We're going to do a new project. We're going to name this project Nonsense 4.
Profound.
I don't know. I feel like 1 through 3 was taken.
The sequel to the best-selling Nonsense 3.
Well, Nonsense 3 was clearly the best of the trilogy. I mean, come on. But, I mean, Angela Lansbury does some good work in it, too. So, if you guys might like that. Nonsense 4, this is where George Clooney comes in and it gets nipples.
Yes. They really
Right, so
don't.
here, well, there's enough of that. So, so here he is, your main Game Maker screen. It's actually not that super complicated. That's why I love Game Maker. It's right to the point. All of Game Maker is so easy to follow, and I just love it with my face. All right, so I'm going to go through. Dance. Okay. What you're looking at, I'm going to actually move down. Is it actually displaying it for me?
Anybody got a cornflakes box?
No. All right, we're ready.
Yeah. Looks good. Sure. Perfect.
All right, now we have. I want to move the thick.
There, a button on top and clap.
Do what? There's a button on top? Oh, this is nice. I'm intelligent, I do. Yeah. I am intelligent. All right. Thank you all for here all the way to the waitress. Okay, so this is what, sorry, I didn't have the voice display. It's my apologies. All right, so this is like literally where everything happens. There's no additional screens or offshoot screens. This is, there you go. All of your resources are kept in the folders on the side. All your resources include your art, your sprites. They include your actual objects, which is where the programming is. Your rooms, which are like your stages or worlds or wherever the objects go into. And then your sounds, for sound effects and music. That's basically it. Game Maker does what's called object-oriented programming, which, like I just explained, all objects contain the code, which means, anyone here familiar with Street Fighter 2? Yeah. Great game. Classic. Now, Street Fighter 2, Ken is an object on screen, and all of his code is in him. Ryu is another object. His code is in him. There's probably a HUD stage controller object that controls time, life bars, the parallax scrolling on the back, that kind of stuff. So that is the kind of breakdown of what objects are and what they do. You've got a main character on your screen. Let's say you've got Mario. Mario is an object. Goombas are objects. Goomba Troopas are objects. So as you said, that's pretty easy to understand. All of the code for the character is usually contained inside the character. So the only time you'll ever have objects affect one another is usually with like global variables that, then it's really specific. I have to give you like a specific example. But the long and short of it is most of the time, vast majority of the time, all of your objects have all of their variables and information and code kept inside them. Now, there are two types of variables. There are global variables, what I just mentioned, and then there are whatever variables. No, they're just variables. Those are your regular variables that are stored inside objects, and they don't affect anything else. They are just that object's variables. Like if cookie is a variable, cookie belongs to that one object. Global cookie, that's everybody's cookie. Don't touch it, it's probably covered in germs. Global variables are that. They're variables that anything can affect all the time. And they are, I know this is going to be complicated, they are, you notice what they are because it says global dot and then the variable. Any confusion on that? No? Okay, good. Who here has literally never programmed a day in their life? They have no idea what programming even is. Good, glad I brought this up. All right. Programming is basically a series of questions that the computer is asking itself in the code. It runs it in a loop. It's like imagine that you read a page of a book and you just read the page over and over and over. But instead of there just being text about stories and people, imagine that it's just a bunch of questions. Where is this character in relation to this character? Where am I on the screen? Am I too far up? Am I too far down? Or am I pressing this button? Is the game paused? And that's basically all it is. It's just a million questions in the right order being looped thousands of times a second. That's it, that's what coding is. So you know, okay, am I pressing the right key? No. Am I pressing the right key? No. Am I pressing the right key? No. Am I pressing the right key? Yes. Right. So that is literally it. That's all that programming is. It gets complicated in terms of how you organize it and exactly what you're doing, and then very, very sizable games come with sizable chunks of code, clearly. But that is the long and short of how it works. So that's pretty simple, right? Everyone can understand that? Yay? No? I can try to explain further if anyone doesn't get it. I'll do my best. So feel free to speak up or say, no, I'm stupid. Don't, no. So all right, so that's the basics of code. The way that we're going down the easiest game that I can make in Game Maker, like on the fly to show you how it works, is like a top-down shooter game. Are you guys familiar with games like 1942 from the NES or yes, there you go. Those games are very easy to make. If you already have like the music and art resources for one, you can literally make one, like a full game in a day. Like that's how quick we are. But I do want to point out that making games is usually a very time-intensive process, especially when you more complicated game gets, the more time it's going to take to create said project. I think the number one thing that people come to me all the time for is they go, hey, I really want to make such and such a game, how do I do it? And they're like, well, I'm not opposed to you making your such and such a game, that's great, you should always do what you want to do, I think that's super important. But you have to remember that if you've never programmed anything before, you really got to start small. And by small, I mean like palm clone. You really got to start easy. People come to me and they go, yeah, I really want to make this big fantasy RPG inspired by Final Fantasy VI. I'm like, that is not your first game to do. That's not like your 10th game. So.
Unless you use RPG. Unless you use RPG Maker.
Yeah, but RPG Maker is very specific and only makes RPGs. I mean, mostly. I think I once saw somebody make a fighting game out of it because they contorted the code a lot. But yeah, those games are actually more complicated than you think. And people will, the biggest one I frequently get is Mega Man. People go, I want to make a Mega Man game. So Mega Man is actually more complicated than you think it is to make. There's a lot of things that you don't think about in coding when you think you're like Mega Man. I can just press left and right and shoot, and I got different powers, and I just build some stages and some bosses, and I'm good. There's a lot like rooted under Mega Man, because I made a Mega Man game a while ago, and you know, it doesn't even hit you until you're in the moment and trying to code something. You're like, I didn't even think this through. I am really dumb today. So you always want to start small. So anything you're gonna learn from me today or not learn, you gotta apply it small. Make it. It's fine. Make a simple palm claw. It doesn't matter. It's not about you making a grand game at first. It's about you understanding what you're doing. Once you understand what you're doing, then you go nuts and make whatever you want. But everyone has to start something. And if you've never coded, you're still going to have to start something. All right? So everyone with me so far? Any questions, thoughts, concerns? All right. So okay, I don't have. Let's see what I feel like loading in. Okay, so all these are folders on the side, like I talked about before, where you keep your assets. I want to make a sprite. Create a sprite. You want to make a sound. Create a sound. Want to make a background. Backgrounds are used for tiling. We'll get to that later. You actually don't even need to go through that for a top-down shooter. That's the step you can completely avoid. Technically, you also don't need sound. But this creates your objects. This creates your rooms. Your rooms are always, whenever you see a screen that contains an entire section of stage, or singular screens, like a title screen or a character select screen, that's a room. Each one is a separate room. Title screen's a room, character select screen's a room, overworld map is a room. You know, so like, everyone knows Super Mario World, right? Right, so Super Mario World, you start up, title screen, it's a room. It's programmed in a room. And all of the little movie characters and the logo, those are all objects in the room. Then you move on to the overworld screen, which is one big room with scaling view that allows you to follow Mario around the map. And then when you click on a world, go in, and that you get your like actual stage, that's a room. Every time you go down a pipe and enter a new area, that's another room. So you will frequently, when getting late into progression of games, you'll find that you will have a lot of rooms at the end of your game. There's a whole lot of them. So for the top-down shooter, though, we can go with ease because there's not a whole lot of rooms in that. That will make it easier for us now. But for future record, you may end up with a game that has 100 rooms in it. And that is not uncommon or strange or wrong or any of that. So just something to bear in mind for the future. I go into like setting stuff, like say like global game settings, but this stuff's not super important right now. This is stuff you need to know for customizing. You know, you want to release to iOS. You want to like add like backgrounds and banners, and icons for the home screen. Kind of, that's the kind of stuff you mess with in settings. There's no such thing as settings in this that mess with how well GameMaker runs. Like if you boot up a TF2, you can mess with the game settings for audio and video and that kind of stuff. That kind of thing doesn't exist in GameMaker, so you don't have to worry about that. It will automatically optimize everything for as best as possible for whatever PC it's running on. That's actually new. They added that in 1.1. So something else that's taken care of for you. So okay, let's add a sprite. Sprite adding. It's a lot of information, but you don't really have to worry about a lot of it. You want to make sure you find your picture. I don't even know what we're making. Let's see.
Something absurd.
Let's find something. Here we go. Let's go. Let's find. Okay, let's get a sprite of Anderson Cooper holding a hammer.
Should be different.
Actually, this is actually not a bad example. Give me this. Okay, Anderson Cooper holding a hammer. Look at that silver fox. All right, so when you are making sprites don't necessarily have to be one picture. In fact, most of the time, they're not. A sprite can be like an animated GIF, like a character. Going back to the Street Fighter analogy, the Ken and Ryu, everyone knows the famous, that's one sprite. Them standing is like 4, 5, 6 frames animation. Street Fighter 3, it's probably like 87 frames of animation. But that's one sprite. Even though it's multiple frames, one sprite. When they walk across the ground, they kind of bounce into them. It's just one sprite. And the sprite will just loop, as you continue to go and continue to loop. And you can dictate in code when to start and stop sprites. So if you're pressing the left, we were talking about the looping earlier. Am I moving right? No. Am I moving right? No. Am I moving right? Yes. Then use moving right sprite and move him right. Well, now I release the button. I release the button. No. I release the button. No. I release the button. No. Yes. Stop moving him right. Make him go back to his standing sprite. And that is basic movement in a nutshell. I mean, little details become a little more complicated now, like checking for solid objects underneath them. Are they in the air? Are they on the ground? But long and short is the movement, just left and right. That's the basics. So you set your, and we're going to look at, you can see these multiple frames here. I've got 3. I actually need to make 4 there, so I'm going to copy my middle frame so that he has a down frame, mid frame, and an up frame. And I need to copy my second one, my down frame, or my mid frame again, so that he would go back to mid, and then down, and then loop and so on. So you get, I don't know how fast this is going to be. It's going to be probably like silly. There you go. But yeah, something, if you can you guys see that at all a little bit? Up there? But yeah, now he's got his, it's very simple. Go Anderson, you sexy W. So there you go. So then, okay, I'm done. Click the OK button, which is fairly self-explanatory. The big green check mark when you're done. Kaboom. Now, naming your sprite is important. I would always recommend naming your objects and your sprites based on what they are. So if you have a sprite, name it like SPR underscore, Anderson stand, whatever, That way, you keep track of things and what they are just at a glance off to the side. Plus, GameMaker doesn't like it when you name 2 things that are completely different files, like a sound and an object, the same name. It's all like what you talking about, Willis. So you basically have to go in and make sure that you specify not just for you, but for GameMaker's looping process. So, the only other thing you really need to know about right now on this is what's this origin right here, X and Y. What that does is that is telling you that when you're in the object and you're coding the program, that your origin of your character, where is it? Is it going to be in the corner? Is it going to be dead center? I recommend almost always making them dead center. It's going to make it real easy for setting everything up in comparison to where the character is on the screen. We'll go into that as we come up to it, but I would, especially with character and enemy objects, just center it up. It's going to be a lot easier for you to use it. And that's it. Everything else can be changed, and you can learn about them as you go. I actually remember my name was in the contribution for Game Maker season. This right here show, ooh, that was me. That was my big suggestion. Because sometimes you have a sprite that has lots of different pieces, and when you're placing the sprite in an object and then the object in a room, sometimes you're not looking at the right sprite because it will automatically take, it used to automatically take the first frame of whatever sprite you've loaded and use that as the guide, but you're like, what if I don't want the character in that position? What if I want them in a later position? Or if I've got multiple different kinds of sprites, you know, and so I had suggested, what if you could just change what the shown sprite is? So they did it, and kaboom, I received no money for that.
Of course.
Roughly zero. Question, sir?
Yeah, by show, do you mean what they have as the default, like which frame is actually showing right now?
Yes, that is what changes.
Okay, so it's changed from when you're talking, instead of just cycling through and seeing it, you're actually setting the default beginning frame. Okay.
Yes, sir. And in rooms, here we'll make a BS room here. This is a room. I know if I wanted to add an object here, you click, you know, you'd be able to see the object over here in this window. Find whichever object you want. If that's not the object you want, then you go down, you know, to the inventory here, look through all your objects, find the one you want, and then you place it on the screen here. So here, when you place the sprite down, that would also show which the sprite image you can set there. And that was usually what my big problem was. That's why I suggested they added it.
But you could just change the order of the images, right?
You can, but if you want the characters to start on certain sprites for certain animations, that's all. Like I said, this is all, you can customize all this in actual, like getting down in the nitty-gritty anyways. But this is like, if you're just starting and it's, you know, you're trying to pick up the grasp of how it works. That's all. So you made your sprite, all right? All right. You want to have ideally a lot of sprites because you need to have some for walking and hurting and so forth. Yeah, let's add another. Let's make Anderson. What else do I have to do? Go ahead.
I saw the
Stand, so let's do walk. That's pretty fair. Standard. Same thing. I'll do the. There you go. Boost this up to like 6 speed. And there you go. Now he's walking. Look at him go. Oh, Anderson, you slide fast. I concur, right? That's what I'm saying. Anyone see him save that kid in like Syria? That was ludicrous. I have to say, okay, so I have to tell that story. That's so great. I know that's so off topic, but it was so awesome. He's literally reporting, because he's a newscaster, for those of you who don't know who Anderson Cooper is. And he's like just reporting on a news story, and on the street behind him, because you have like the wide shot with what's going on, a gang war breaks out. Literally just people start shooting at each other. Big gang war. 9-year-old boy gets caught in the middle of it and starts getting hit by the bullets. Anderson drops the mic, runs in, grabs the kid, and pulls him out. Boom! I was like, I got up out of my chair. I'm watching it on YouTube. I got the, yes! Now you have a giant head. All right, so here we have a walking animation. So we will name it SPR_Anderson walk. See, this is actually pretty easy, the whole labeling system. So, okay, so now I've got two things here. Now let's say, we're going to do our first object. Everyone kind of gets how sprites work, right? Just a series of images that animate. Any questions on that so far? Not good. All right, we're moving. Let's do our first object. All right, here we go. Here's the meat and potatoes. Here is the money shot. All right, whoa, that was really out of, sorry guys. That was really hard. Internet ruined me. All right, so, you know, you want to name your object. So, OBJ Anderson, right? So, okay, so, all right, this is where we're going to start. This is where you have to start paying attention. Everything we've done up to now is pretty easy, understandable, right to the point. Objects, this is where the coding happens. This is where you make the characters work. You go, girl. All right. So what we're going to do is, you've got information here on the side. We're not going to worry about this just yet. because this is important, but again, we're not really getting to that point. So we'll get there in a second. What you can do here is add an event. This is every object needs an event, they need multiple events. And all of these events break down pretty easily once you know what they are and what they do. But for the sake of getting going, we're going to start with a create event. Now the create event, everything that I now code underneath the create event is going to be what happens the second the character is created. Whether I pop them on screen using the room editor, or whether I create them out of another object going on in the game. Like for example, Ryu, he's already on the screen, he's already been created, but Hadouken, Fireball, new object, create code the second it's created. And funsies, what do you think, let's not hear from the pro coders, right? What do you think is going to be in the create event for a Fireball? It comes right out. What do you think that object is going to need to do? Any thoughts?
Appear on the screen.
What?
Appear on the screen.
Well, it's going to be on the screen. But in creating, it is now on the screen. But what does it do once it's created? What does a Fireball do, guys? What does it do? It moves. Yes, yes, all good. It moves. So we need to tell it to move. But what else does it do? Yes, that's correct.
I was going to say stop moving when it hits another object.
It will, and that will be done under a collision event, which we'll come to in a minute. That is correct. But I'm thinking more like right at creation. It's going to move. That is correct.
Initial noise. Big sound.
Yes, that's another good one. So if the Fireball has a sound effect when it comes out like a whoosh or something like that, yes, it will play the sound at the create. Good, very good. Anything else?
Well, it's going to need a trigger to be created.
Yeah, but again, well, we're talking once it's created. Once it's been there, like the second it appears, it's been created, you can see it on screen for clearly the most part. You have to set. Setting sprites is another thing you have to do for it. But another good one, right. You have to place it where it's going to be on the screen when it starts moving. True. It's good. Everyone seems to be understanding pretty well.
Yeah, how it needs to, well, once it's created, it needs to start looping through the new code.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's step code. We'll get there in a second.
Image speed. Image speed.
Eventually it's going to get destroyed.
Well, it will get destroyed, yes. But again, that's with collision with another object. But yes, I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, guys. You got a lot of good stuff. You even jumped ahead a few notches on me, a few of you. So what we'll do is we will set the sprite. Usually, typically, the first thing you do, so that when it's on screen, you know what it looks like. If you do not set the sprite for the record, it will auto-take whatever the example sprite is, we were talking about the show earlier, and it will play it from there at a speed of 1, which is way too fast. So we'll just let you know that right off the bat. But everything in Game Maker seems to be done from a 0 to 1. I'm not like a really hardcore underneath coder, so I don't know why they don't do like 1 to 100 or something. But everything is 0 to 1. So if you put in a number, movement speed of like 1, it'll be way too fast. If you put it in at like 0.1, it'll probably be way too slow. So you just gotta, load up the game, look at it, decide what works for you, whatever you're shooting for. There's no right or wrong answer, it's just whatever you like. But for the sake of Anderson's standing, we'll do 0.1. What these numbers mean here is sub-image is the image in the sprite that it will start from. Usually this is 0, in special cases it'll be another number. But 0 is what we're going with. In the case of Anderson's standing, it doesn't really matter, but 0 is your typical answer. Speed is the speed in which it will loop through the sprite as it continues to go. So you don't have to retouch the sprite, hypothetically, once you set it here. You don't have to tell it to remember to loop or to remember to do this. The sprite will, once you set it here, if you don't touch the character, you don't do anything else, you don't change things, it will forever just go loop through the sprite. It makes it really easy. So you don't have to keep, in a lot of other languages, especially older ones, like assembly, you'd have like an upkeep, you had to make sure sprites were still going, you have to dictate at what point in the code they would change and stuff like that. This, you don't have to worry about it. Set it and forget it. I feel like that's like a microwave oven. Everybody, set it and forget it. I apologize for that too. I was woken up early. It really didn't work out for me. I didn't even get coffee yet. I'm so sorry. All right, so one setting your sprite. In the case of Anderson, he's not coming out moving. In the case of a fireball, you would set a movement speed on either a direction and a movement speed, or you just change of position. There's a number of ways you can do it. But fireball, yeah, you normally at this point you'd add your sound effect here like this, and then you'd add your movement speed like that, and that would right there be like what a fireball looks like in its creation. Right? So this is not a fireball. This is world-renowned hero Anderson Cooper, child-saving Anderson Cooper. All right, so we're going to do real quick. Here's our stupid room, which we're going to stupid room. Your width and your height is actually how big your room is in pixels. So, like, take everyone to Mega Man.
Mega Man.
All right, now in this Mega Man stage, you start at one side and you'll, scroll as you fight and your way for the other. The size of the room would be the long stage, not the little portion you see. That would be a view in the room. So the room is the full length. Now, for the sake of moving Anderson around, we are not going to really do a whole lot. I'm going to change this to something really small. I don't want that. There we go. Just so that we can see Anderson's back. Game Maker, one of the lovely things about it is no matter what you set your resolution to, no matter what your view size is, it will blow, if you want to be in full screen, it will blow everything up mathematically correctly so that you can enjoy that. Speed of your room is, this is technically the wrong way to say it, but to get the point across, it's basically your frames per second. It's in reality and in coding, like deep understanding of coding, that's not true. But for people that don't really know a whole lot about coding or limited understanding, that's the best way to describe it. So, you guys remember some of the old 30 frames per second games where they felt like really, when you're watching them, or you do 60 and everything becomes much smoother. So for the sake of making this look pretty for all of you, we're going to go with 60. Now, objects. Oh, that's right, we haven't. Say okay to Anderson Cooper. Okay. Say okay. You asked me to say okay. So now we're going to put Anderson Cooper in here. Now normally, I didn't set a test for you. There. All right, so now look, see, I can put Anderson and move him around. Now, object in a room. That's the fundamentals of game development, right? Let's see. Let's play our game. Let's see what Anderson Cooper is doing. It's probably got interpolation on pixels. So we're not going to get clean pixels, but whatever. Okay, so I'm going to have to go in and change settings so I can full screen it. But there you go. There we go. Ship it. We're done. We're good. Does he do anything? Doesn't. It's Anderson Cooper. He saves kids. So clearly, nothing is happening really. Anderson is definitely idling a little too fast. He has really had more coffee than me this morning here. But there you go. That's the game. It's running. It's not broken. Look how simple it was. What, 2 sprites, an object, in a room. There you go, and it works. I mean, it doesn't do anything, but it works. See, that's way less effort than it would take in regular coding on a new engine to make something work, even if it doesn't do anything. Why do you think Hello World was the coder's big beginning? That was the first thing you ever learned how to do, was just to print the phrase Hello World on a computer screen. And that was 20 lines of code back then. And this is 3 things and it works. So, okay. Clearly we have some things we have to fix. Number one, I'm going to do my, we're going to start in full screen. That's what we're going to do. Now, we're going to blow this up, it's going to be big. There we go. Look at that. All right, Anderson. You're a sexy bitch, but I'm afraid. Oh, this is something that the new Game Maker has, and I always found it very amusing. In old Game Maker, by default, if you pressed escape, it would quit out of Game Maker. That was it's pretty standard, right? A lot of programs do that, no big deal. Now, you have to program in your escape stuff. So now I can't, I can't get out of this. Control Alt.
I have a question.
question too. Why don't they just back add in the end? Actually, I should probably just go ahead and like hit up Mike on that one. Mike, do me a favor. I always say,
Oh, there's no setting for that in the global game settings or anything? Do you have
not in. I have no idea why they took it out. Game Maker 1.2 was a big overhaul, but yeah, they took it out. 1.1 was a big overhaul. They took it out. Yeah, and you'd think, yeah. I'm like, I don't even know. I have no idea why they did it. I will defend these people to the tooth and nail. I love them. They're good people, very intelligent, make great games. But this is the one thing I'm like, fuck, I don't know, man. Mike was drunk that day. I don't know. So what we're going to do, in fact, this is a good first step anyways for you guys. We're going to program an escape out of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into an event. This is real easy, by the way. And you go to key press. Simple enough, right? What key am I going to press? Well, we're going to go into others, which is where escape is. Escape, boom. Okay, so if you press the escape key, whatever you have in code here will happen. So we are going to take end game. Done. Now, see, it's very easy, really. Here we go, we start. There's Anderson, got a lot of coffee in him. Ship it, we're done. Yes. We're done. We're ready. All right, now Anderson moves too quickly. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do, what do you think, guys? Well, I can't hear you guys. You have to be
Lower the speed.
lower the speed. Right, what speed are we lowering? That speed? You're a sexy and correct individual. So we're going to go to 0.05, which for those of you who understand numbers is smaller than 0.1. So let's see how that looks. Anderson, are you still on coffee? No. Ooh. Looks a lot better than before. So there you go. You can see how you can change the speed of the sprite just to that one number. Now, real fun is ha! I don't even know what's going to happen now. Someone call an ambulance.
Talk about too much coffee.
That's not even coffee at that point, dude. That's just a medical condition. All right, we're going to go back to 0.05. Make sure that is correct again. All right, much better, much better. Now, that's pretty simple. All right, everyone with me so far? We're understanding things? All right, now, what do you think we want to do next with Anderson?
Make him move.
Make him move. Apparently, we just need to put a small African-American child in the street. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do more key pressing. So we're going to do key press. Now, this is going to be interesting to you. This is so useful. There isn't just like a key press, and that's all you got. You've got key press, key release, and regular keyboard. Now, keyboard is just checking to see if you're holding it. So for moving a character, you don't want to use key press because it only registers like the initial press, and that's it. So, and then since to move a character, you hold down the left and right buttons. You go with keyboard. Both right to start. Right. Okay. Holding down the right keyboard button. Everyone still with me? Nice. Nice. You're beautiful people. I can't tell it's so dark. Now.
Get on key release.
Right. We're going to start with the press first, but we'll get to release in a second. What do you think we need to do with pressing key right?
Move right.
Right, that's phenomenal. I like where your head is at, sir. So yeah, let's move them right. We're going to move them right. Let's say if 1 pixel is enough. Don't move it right. I'll explain what I just did there in a second, but we will. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. You can't move anywhere else. Escape, escape, escape. But he moves. But something's wrong with that movement, isn't it?
No leg movement.
It was sliding.
There's no moving animation.
There you go. That's got it. We need to change the sprite. So we will go to sprite, just like we said in create. Same exact thing. And now we have to tell it what to do this time. So we're going to tell them, hey, why not walk? That's pretty cool, right? Everyone likes walk. Something I enjoy doing myself on occasion. I don't remember what the actual point was for now, and we'll see how broken it is in a minute. It's all a guessing game when you're setting your speeds. And for subimage, now this is the tricky part. Since usually you just start at 0, and that's normally fine. Actually, I want to see if you guys can guess what's wrong with this. You're smart people. I'm going to give you a shot here. There's something that's not going to work here. I'm going to see if you guys can apply the logic and guess why. Let's watch that again. Actually, what I'm going to do is another thing to reset. Just make this easier for you guys. I'm going to do a, let's say backspace is a reset game one, just so I can say everything from the get-go. I never forgot to set my 0, 0. Did you see how when he was on the screen and then I pressed right, he jumped down real quick? That was the result of not making sure that my original sprite was 0, 0. Because what had happened is the origin on his standing sprite was 0, 0, but the origin on his texture sprite, or his walking sprite, was top left corner. So when I pressed it, the origin is always in the same spot of the object. So with the standing sprite, he was centered, but with the other one, he wasn't. So his origin was here, so he was suddenly like this. That's why he quickly jumped. He didn't actually jump, just the sprite jumped. But again, we'll get to that. Either way, let's see. Let's see this again in slow motion. No, just in normal motion. Reset, okay. What do you think is happening?
He's not going
key.
back to his idle stance.
The sprite's not moving while you hold down the keys and have to
Hmm? Do you think you can figure out why that is?
It's not moving that far. I see.
You're onto it. Very, very close. Which is that when I'm pressing right, this is constantly checking. Every loop, remember the question, every loop thing? This holding right key is one of the things that's being checked in every single loop because I'm holding it down. So I'm holding it down in this loop, I'm still holding it down in the next one, I'm still holding it down in the next one. So here, I am dictating in the sprite that it start at subimage 0, which means in every single loop, it's telling it subimage 0. So, how do we tell it to just go with the sprite and stop being a jerk about it? This in GameMaker is called -1. -1 is a number that's used in continuing things. There are other examples of it, but they get more complicated. So I will dictate, or I will show you how this works. -1 is telling it to continue using it from its last frame, essentially, rather than always being on 0. Whatever the last frame is, pick it up from there, which means.
All right.
Now, you'll notice when I stop moving, he's still walking. And while that is really magical for us, we're going to need to stop that. We're going to need to knock all that nonsense off it. So, what do you think event we're going to need for this, guys? Booyah! On the ball. This is my smartest crowd ever, dude.
I'm sorry.
So we're going to release the right key, just like you press the right key. And what are we going to put in our release right key? So good! See, this makes me feel like I'm competent. That really helps my day. So I'm just going to control copy, which yes, with the icon you can control C, control V. So that's what we're going to do. So let's give it a try. We got our release right. And there it is. That wasn't so hard, right? That wasn't so hard at all. Ah. We could just play this all day. You know what? That's it, ship it, we're done. So, oh, well right now, because we have nothing in place for that, which we will, but I'll get to that here. Right now, he will do what we call exit stage left. Or in this case, stage right. So he is still there. He hasn't been deleted or anything. He's still over there. So when we add in our movement for left, I will be able to walk him back onto the screen. It's a good question. It's a good question. We're going to tackle it now. So he walks right. Looks great walking right. Let's make him walk left. Screw it. Let's get this party started. It's a really sad party. So walking left. We're pretty much going to want to do like the exact opposite of this, aren't we? So as opposed to moving forward 1 pixel per loop, we want to,
Negative one.
huh?
-1?
Boom shakalaka. I don't even know. How are you not all getting laid right now? You're so good.
Can you convert the sprite horizontally in code?
Yeah, you can. You will be able to. We're going to get to that in a second. Yeah. So, here we go. We got it right. Oh, so good. Man, moonwalking. Now, I didn't, as you can see, I didn't add in my release left key. So here he is still walking. So let's do our quick in fact, because this, we don't even need. So we just literally just control copy that. We don't even make changes. Because you're just trying to move sprite again. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's not too bad, right? Oh, Anderson, I love the way you move. So, what is wrong with our moving left sprite?
It needs to be flipped.
It's still facing right. Yeah, that's what
Nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong with it.
All right, now, for the sake of making this easy, I'm going to do this real simple. There is a piece of code, a drag and drop function, that flips sprites. So, let's say, if you're pressing left, let's say that you flip the sprite. Now here you've got X scale, Y scale. That's for changing the size of your sprite. If you want to change it and make it bigger and rotate it, you can do all that. We don't need to do all that. So we're going to leave all that right where it is. But we do want to mirror flip it horizontally. Vertically would make no sense. So if you're holding left, your character will flip and face the other way. But if you're holding right, you want him to face the normal way. So we have to set that too. So no mirroring, that's it. That's our, the sprite will be normal when facing right. The sprite will be flipped facing left. Let's give it a try. Right now a lot has been added. We're all good. Whoa! That's pretty solid. You didn't need to do a whole lot going on. That's like just where it's at. So yeah, right? I mean, that's, everyone's digging that. That's pretty good. And look, we didn't really do a whole lot.
Is that a hammer axe?
Yeah, it's a hammer axe. The actual game that these sprites are from that I'm developing is actually going to be a mobile game that you actually click on the screen to move it or something around. You don't actually move them. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to move them ourselves. Now, good, we're moving. Now, this game is designed also on a y-axis, not just an x-axis side to side. So we also want to make him move up and down. What do you think we want to do with that? What do I want to do? We just learned how to move left and right. How do we move up and down?
We're going to want to do the keyboard up, add in a jump animation or down animation for ladder.
Keyboard up, kaboom, more correct, sir. But since it's think of this more as a Final Fight or Streets of Rage over Mega Man Castlevania. So we're just going to walk up and down a little bit. So, what are we going to do, guys? Up, he's right, up. What do we do?
You can copy and paste that.
Copy and paste. I've already done it once, we're doing it again. The true coder's logic.
And then
I'm actually
shake
okay.
the movement up.
There you go, we just copied it, goes right up there. But this isn't going to work properly. We're going to need to change a few things here. What do you think those things are?
+1 on the Y now for the movement.
Not +1 on the Y, it's a -1 on the Y, because X, on the screen, X goes from 0 forward to 10, 20, 30, 50, yeah. Y, top is 0 and goes down. So if he's already in the middle of the screen, he's not going to +Y. That would be going down. When we do the down, we'll be adding positive to the Y. But here we're going to do negative to the Y. Think of the graph, of the X and Y graph that is. At the top left of the screen is the 0, 0. So that's the farthest left X there is, farthest top Y there is. So he's going to go up. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that. Don't need to move him in X anymore. And there's one other piece here. Remove the transform sprite?
We have to, the mirroring won't work. We have to do it a different way. I'm not really sure.
Nope. We are literally just going to, you had it right. We're just going to delete the transform sprite. In games like Final Fight and Streets of Rage, when you press left and right, your character will flip to face the direction. But when you press like up or down, they don't change another direction. They still face the left or right, they just move up or down. So yeah, we're going to completely remove it. Up and down are not going to affect your flipping of the sprite at all. So let's see what we got. In fact, we're going to, before we even get to there, I'm going to go ahead and just add in the key release folder because that's going to be nice and easy. Same thing. We're going to do key release up, and just like before, we're just going to make it Anderson stand. Should work just fine. There you go. Of course, now we're not down yet, so stage north. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to real quick go in, for the sake of this tutorial, and we're going to do our key events for pressing down. Google down, copy, paste, because yes, coder's logic. And now, the positive line. Let's take a look, see what we got. Something beautiful, maybe? Is it something? Oh, we have got something.
Oh my.
All right, so he can just move around freely now. We're getting good here. Anyone see a problem, by the way? What does it say?
Key temporarily is replacing the old brain.
Very good. Very, very good. See, you guys are really good today. When I'm releasing my finger off the keys to move him around, it's very quickly for that one loop, making him stand again, because we said, if you release the key, make him stand, even though I'm pressing other keys. So, we're going to have to figure out a way to stop that nonsense. It's called quitting. We're done. Ship it! All right, so now everything we've done so far is real basic. Like, this is easy to follow. We're moving a character, changing their sprite, flipping them a direction. That's it. That's all we're doing. Very easy so far. But, bear with me on this one. This is where actual coding comes in. This is where the heart comes in. Now, on all of these release key events, make them stand. Just let them make them stand. Well, no, we don't want them to stand now, necessarily. If we're not pressing any other keys, we can let them stand. But what if we're pressing another key? Mind blown. So now we have to add a question. Remember I talked about the series of questions, loops of questions? Now we have to say, if we're not holding any other keys, make Anderson stand. So this is where the chest hair starts to form on the manliness of coding. Now we have to ask questions. All right. This is, ready? Roll up the sleeves. Always liberal. It's good for you. All right.
Check all keys or just the arrow keys?
Just check the arrow keys. All we need to do, because the other keys don't really matter at the moment, and probably won't matter much at the end anyways, unless we're specifically talking about like jumping or attack or something like that, you know. Keyboard check VK left. Equals false. So what this is checking, what this piece of code is that I know is getting a little advanced. This is the line of code that asks if left is being pressed. And that's all it's doing. It's just saying, is left being pressed? And false means
Not being pressed.
not being pressed. Very, very easy. True would be wrong. False for no, south for yes. All right, so what this is going to ask here is, when I'm pressing right, if I'm not pressing left, go back to stand. However, it's going to make it work. But if I am pressing left, you'll notice you can see the frame jumping. Let's try it again. Did anybody see the frame skip there? No, because we added in a question. Now, unfortunately, you're like, oh, that was so easy, and so we started asking things. Unfortunately, that's the majority of programming, asking things. But it's got to be done. So what we're going to do is not only are we going to do for left, we're just going to check them down. If keyword true or false,
that's why I say counter on this person you can command and stop. And then you just check to see if it's right.
all right, so now that is asking, are you pressing up? No. Are you pressing down? No. Are you pressing left? No. There you go. That's about as complicated as it's going to get today, I think. So now, hypothetically, I didn't break anything. Yep. Oh, no, down is still broken. Up wasn't though. Keyboard check up false.
What do you type in for those?
I'm sorry, but
What do you type in for those?
well, what I'm doing right now is this specific drag and drop icon I've pulled in is a question icon. It's specifically asking a question. It's whatever you type in there, it's going if. So you could say, if cookies equal delicious. So if cookies equal delicious.
Well, that's always going to be true.
Right, exactly. Let's see if we can do if cookies equal delicious. Then milk is true. I don't know. That's milky. I really am. So that was all very clearly nonsense, but you know, the point is valid. It's there. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to copy paste for each of the others, like usual, with the exception that this time we are going to change, since this is particularly talking about down, we're going to change. We don't need to check about down here because this is the down press, so we will change it to and this part is, I know it's
You have to go through that all this.
we're just going to do our copies and paste.
Yeah, whereas if you use counter, you just so use counter, you just have to put the code in new 50 and then you take care of the
Does everyone follow me so far? We know we're getting complicated, but any questions, thoughts so far?
Where do you find the expression variables? Is there a list in manual?
Well, you define your own variables.
Okay.
There are some variables that GameMaker has pre-programmed in as big global variables to try and make it easier for the people. Like score is a global variable. So if you ever say a score is already in there as a 0, and you can say, okay, well, add to score. You don't need to initialize it, which is great. Same thing with health, lives. These are all like pre-made global variables. Come with GameMaker. So if you're doing something basically like a top-down shooter, basically all your big stuff's already in there.
Cool. And expressions as well?
Well, the expressions are just asking questions.
Yeah. So like keyboard check.
Keyboard check, yeah, there is a big master list of everything GameMaker understands. Yeah.
What about joypad control?
There is joypad control. What I typically do for my games is I set everything as keyboard controls, and then I give everybody like a free copy of XPad, which allows you to customize your stuff. But yes, there are, under events, if you go under event, there is, I think it's under mouse. I messed with a bunch of stuff. Under start views. They will remove it from this. They might have removed it.
Which version is this?
This is Studio 1.1. They constantly do updates on it too, by the way. This Studio constantly gets updates. I'd say once every week or two. There's a new build that'll like auto update on you, give you a bunch of new stuff, new features, bugs, fixes, things like that, you know. And as long as you're connected to the net, it'll like automatically tell you. You don't even need to go hunting for it. Yeah, I think they removed the keyboard stuff or the joystick stuff from this. There used to be stuff for joysticks, but I feel like because they're building towards mobile devices, maybe that's why they removed it. But I'll yell at them for it, don't punch them right in the mouth. My mouth. What? All right, down. I'm just checking this real quick. Right. Now that I've recopied that nonsense, we should build over on no problems. Oops. Okay, that was actually good. All right, there you go. No more problems with this way. So now he moves. What else do we want to make Anderson do?
Swing the hammer.
Swing the hammer. That sounds sexy. Let's go swing the hammer. So, all right, first off, for the sake of making sure that everything is okay, what we're going to do, we're going to save all. We don't want our project to not go anywhere. Saving is clearly very important. And I promise you, after you've lost a day of work to like a power outage, save all will become your best friend.
Is there any version control built into it?
Is there what? I'm sorry?
Version control?
Yeah, you can go into settings and you can set it to do like auto backups and things like that to save for you. Regardless, try to get in the habit of saving anyways, because you can set the auto backup to as many backups as you want at a time. You can set it to do it every so many minutes. You can just tell it, please every 10 minutes back up for me. But getting in the habit of saving all the time.
What I meant was a version control system. I'm not sure if the source files that you have for this are plain text or if they're binary or how they save it. But something that's say, okay,
like
so I can go back and say, oh, I screwed up this logic. I want to roll back to the previous version.
Yeah, you can do it. It's another setting. It's another thing you have to go through settings. So it's a little bit more advanced. If you're super curious on this, and after the thing, and I'll go through it because it's a little more than meets the eye.
Okay.
It's robots in disguise. But yeah, it's possible, and we'll do that. Anyhow, okay, so we want Anderson. Swing that hammer, baby. All right, the first thing we're going to have to do is dictate an event. What do we want to dictate?
Hammer time.
Stop. Collaborate and listen. What do we want to do? Keep pressing. Keep pressing. There you go. That's basically what anytime you want a character to do something that you want them to do, it's almost always going to be keep pressing. Almost. So keep pressing. Now the reason that we're going to use key press and not keyboard is because keyboard again is like the hold down the button. Key press is the ones. So you don't want to hold down keyboard and have to swing the hammer like he was seizuring earlier. So we're going to go ahead and make it key press. What key do we want it to be? Space. Space, why not? Yeah. Screw it. I don't use space a lot. Okay. For the record, if you're the type of person who likes to keep organized and you like to have a little commentary notes on what you're doing, this little thing right here, that's all it is. It's just a sign for you. I like cookies. Done. Now you'll remember every time you press the space key. You like cookies. It doesn't display this. This is just a commentary in the programming, so you can use it to help you remember. Like for example, I wrote, like here, got a couple things going on. Want to make sure it's organized. So I will head it up with pressing left key. So when I jump into this, I will see right there, press, oh, this is what happens when I press, It's for you. This is not important, it's not needed. But if you're like the kind of person that likes to stay organized, help yourself remember, this is really super useful. For me, I just use them to pepper in and organize. I'll break up parts of code by just doing stuff like this. I'll leave them blank, and I'll just, do stuff like this to help break up code. And then when I do my next stuff, I'll do it like down here. That way, like visually, I can see like a little more break in like, okay, this section moves character, and this section does this, and then this section makes this right. So you can use it like I do sometimes, and just organize yourself a little bit better. You can put in as many of them as you want. So like they said, they don't affect code at all. So that's all you do. Okay. Space. Oh yeah, I like cookies. See, I totally forgot that was even there, but now I remember. As well as liking cookies, what are we going to want to do here?
We're going to need another sprite.
That's correct. Once again, You win whatever game it is we're playing. We're going to change the sprite. But wait, we have not put in a swinging hammer sprite yet. Remember, we only have walking and standing. So let's take a step back. Add a sprite. Let's load. There we go, right here. Center it. Take a look. It's a little slow, so we'll speed up and take a look at it. All right. So that is him swinging his hammer. Everyone see that okay? All right. That is our hammer swing. It is definitely him too. So we'll do SPR. Hammer. Attack. Done. Boom. So now we set our sprite. And we will set it to Anderson attack. Now speed, we're going to have to figure this one out on our own. Odds are it's not 5. That was seizure. So what we're going to do is we are just going to start at image of 0, the one he holds back the hammer before he swings it. We'll do, I'd say a speed of like 0.2 for now. We'll see what it looks like. We'll gauge it out, but okay. All right. We move around. What's going on here? He's looping.
He's swinging that hammer.
So, well, okay, we got to stop this because clearly once is enough, Anderson. We don't show off.
Can you move around while he's swinging?
Yes, right now you can. That is because we're going to set more questions in a little bit, but right now we want to make sure that we can stop all of this. So, okay, we want to do it once and then knock it the hell off. So, we are going to introduce a new concept to you. Animation end. Sounds simple enough. It is. So what you do is it's actually, this was weird for me to understand when I started, so if you're like, I don't know why it's done this way, I completely agree. I think it should not be an event. I think it should be an actual piece of code to end animations, but whatever. So under other, there is animation end. So under animation end, now, if we leave it like this, and just put the standing animation, which is what we've done so far with releasing keys and so forth, that means at the end of every single animation that he will do from now to the end of this game, he will go back to standing, regardless of what the animation is. So for example, if you press right, make it right at the end of that animation loop, we'll go back to standing. We don't want that. We want to specify. Only stop animating if you're using the goddamn hammer, all right? So we have to ask a question. We're going to ask a little bit of an easier question. We don't need to ask a bunch of parameters. We're just going to say, if sprite index, that's the game maker's way of telling what the sprite is. Sprite index, there's image index, mask index. Index is used a lot. It's pretty, you can pretty much, after using a lot of the pieces of code, you can actually just start guessing at what the other codes are, and you're usually right. It's actually pretty easy. The sprite index is equal to SPR Anderson attack. That's the name of our sprite. That's what it knows. So if it is equal to that, if the sprite at the end of the animation event is equal to that sprite, then we will make him go back to standing. Now, what that means is that after pressing attack,
Boom.
now he's coming along. Now he's starting to be a character. All right. Now, we had brought up the problem a little earlier with the movement. If you move while he does the animation, it'll stop, and he'll start moving. Well, we don't want that. We want to finish the animation, even if you start moving right afterwards, which is fine. You want to at least have him do it instead of being like, oh, no, never mind, I'm eating pizza. Watch right? Gonna get down. So we need to fix that. This is where more of our questions come in. So now, are you ready? Now we're going to encase our movement code in a question. If sprite index is, we're going to do, again, this PR Anderson attack, which I said before, but as opposed to equal to, how about not equal to? So if spray index is not equal to the attacking, then you can move. See these little here, these little brackets, these it's like hugging the code. Like this, the question is asked, and everything in the hug of love is affected by this question. But only the things that are being hugged, not the guy in Zimbabwe. Fuck that guy. Tony? Oh, Coney. Yeah, fuck that guy. Well, but no, that was in 2012. I don't know about this year.
It's over.
It's over now. But yeah, so this is pretty easy. You just ask, as long as it's not doing that attacking animation, you should be able to move just fine. So we'll go in, just control copy, control paste. We're gonna a lot of loving going on here, a lot of hugging. We're hugging all those pieces of code, which means that I am going to press left, attack, and you'll notice that while I'm holding, he will finish his attack because he's in the middle of that sprite. So when it checks to say, well, if he's not in the sprite, move him. Well, he is in the sprite, so don't do any of that nonsense. There you go, we already fixed that one. This is coming along pretty well, and it's still pretty simple. Everyone following so far? Nice. All right, now the thing is, at this point, I would say that we could focus on what I would normally do in this situation now is focus on making the hammer actually do damage. We don't really have anything for him to attack here. Should we make him something to attack?
Yes.
I like where this is going. All right, we're gonna need more sprays because clearly we need to give him something to attack. Luckily, I already have a troll that I was putting together just for such an event. So what we're gonna do is we're actually just gonna make him SPR troll send. And we're gonna go in and make sure, okay, he's a little wonky. Maybe we turn him down like a 2. Or like a 3. That's a little better. But okay, just gonna do more sprites now. Let's start with this down. We don't really need to go any farther than that at the moment. What are we gonna need next for this troll? Boom shakalaka. That's right. This troll is going to be an object, just like everything else that's here. So, OBJ, troll 1. So we will make his sprite troll stand, seems obvious. We got our setup here. What do you think we're going to need to do to start? It's a brand new object. You're not controlling this object either. This guy is a rogue. He doesn't want to do what you say. He's an anarchist.
Create.
Very good. Create. Always create at the beginning. Like everything you ever do is going to have a create event. I can't even think of an object I've ever made that didn't have one. But create. Okay. So in create, we'll do what we normally do, which is set a standing sprite. Do we want to set up a seizure stand? We can do that. I'll make it happen right now. That's what I'm talking about. That's happening. I don't even care. Now, let's roll our game. Wait a minute. There's no troll here. This isn't the internet. What's missing?
He's not placed. He's not placed.
There you go. You guys are rock off with your socks off, man. So we're going to open the room. Make sure that we have our troll selected. Just put them like right here for fun, okay? See your troll! Wow! He's metal, man. Not like Mega Man 2. He's not Metal Man. Metal Combo Man. Because he's the fucking system. That went on too long. Alright, so no seizures. We'll make his standing point of 5, which is the same as Anderson's. So it should look competent. Yeah, there it is. Much better. So now we got a troll. Well, this is going to be a lot different. You're not controlling this character. So you need to be able to have this controlled by an AI. Well, there is no such thing as like an AI button. You have to put this together. You have to make sure that you know what's going on. But believe it or not, simple AI can be really easy. For example, you can have the character check which side of Anderson it's on and have him automatically face that direction. Like you'll notice on the screen here. What did you find? Great. You notice he's not even facing Anderson. He's like looking away. He's like, you don't threaten me. That's really rude. Frankly, I'm not going to put up with it. So, we need to make this thing look at Anderson. That's our first step we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do. So, I'm going to go out in the room. So, I'm going to have a good example. Okay, so, I'm looking more toward the middle so this is easier. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a step event. Now, a step event is different than what we've done so far. Everything else that we've done so far sort of happens in an instant. I press this button. I release this button. This happened. The end of this animation. Step is constantly going. Step code is like the code that is always being checked. Doesn't matter what you're pressing, where you're going, how much health your character has. None of that matters. Step is always happening. So, this would be a good place to put in a check to see where Anderson is in comparison to our troll. We want to make sure he looks at him. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask questions. All right. We're going to ask if Anderson.x, which is Anderson's x-axis on the screen, makes sense, right? Anderson.x. If it is, let's say, less than the troll's x, then we're going to change his facing direction. So if Anderson's x is smaller than the troll's x, which side, think logically, which side of Anderson is the troll?
Right side. Is it left?
No. It's right. Because it's asking, is Anderson's position smaller on the screen than the troll's position? So the troll would be on Anderson's right. Remember, x and y, x is 0 is the far left, and y is top. Yeah, Anderson is left of the troll, that is correct. So if Anderson x is less than the x of the troll, then we are going to mirror him so that he faces the other direction. And here's the best part. Now, normally you would say, okay, well now I have to repeat that code to see if he's on the other side, right? Because we have to just like control him. But this is what I like. Else. Oh, else is so good. Because then, else takes care of everything that is the opposite of the statement I just said. So, if Anderson x is less than the x of the troll, else, which means he would be on the other side, then we set our node, our regular transform sprite, which is just the not mirror. So that by itself right there, that little piece, should always make the troll face Anderson. Oh, it's not. Oh, that's what happened. That right there is what we call the syntax error. That's when the game crashes because you named something incorrectly. It's like if object Anderson x is less than x. Those actually come up frequently because that will come up usually when you misspell something, late night coding, too much coffee in you, and you just one too many i's in a variable or something, something like that. That'll pop up and you're like, God damn it. But wait, what's this? He's now facing us. What if I go this way? Whoa! What? Holy crap, he's a magician, he knows where I am. And that's like it, that's it. That's your area of screen is dictated based on where he is by that little piece of code. This is why Game Maker is so great. In a lot of other programming languages, it's like an hour of scripting to know positioning on screen. But Game Maker, it's like 4 drag and drop icons, that's it. And then, you know, GameMaker does all the rest for you. So it's really easy to pick up a lot of this stuff. Now here is, for the sake of teaching you something fun, you'll notice that Anderson is walking all on top of this dude. And as we know, in these types of games, like Streets of Rage and Final Fight, the farther back, or the farther up they are, the farther like back they are, you know, in depth. You know what I'm talking about? So there is actually something we can do to make this happen. See this number right here? Depth. Every object has a depth. That will display the character at whatever depth you tell it to. The more negative or lower number you go, the closer to screen. The more positive, the farther back. So like you could say like 100, and it'll go way back here. It won't make the sprite smaller, it will just make them appear on a layer behind. Whereas if you have like a -5, it'll be way higher, so it'll be in front. But in this game, you're always shifting your depth because you're always changing your position up and down, left and right. So in these types of games, this is very easy. There's one very tiny piece of code that we can put in the step event, which is set depth to -1. That little tiny piece of code right there will make it so that whatever is lower on the screen will always be closer. So, for example, see? Okay. And that's it. That's one little piece of code. Because what it's asking where you are on the screen, and it's just literally saying the higher up you are, the farther back you are. The lower you are, the farther forward you are. And then it does it to the pixel watch, and you see right through it like that. So it is, that's hot shit. That is right to the point.
So how did you do that again?
Oh, all I added was this little piece of code. I just took the variable maker, and I just made depth -y. Because y is your position on the screen up and down, and since that is what's directly affecting your depth, you just make it negative because of the reverse positive.
What object is that?
Okay.
You put them on each object to individually for that object. So some objects you will need that for, like if you have like a HUD, which is like the life bars, that kind of thing, you're going to have those at a very far forward.
So it goes on Cooper and Troll.
It goes on Cooper and the Troll.
Okay.
So it'll go on any player object or object that's in the game outside of things like the HUD, where like the life bars are always going to be far forward. You're never going to walk in front of life bars. So you would always set your life bars to like -100, so they're real far forward, and then everything would take place at depths behind that. Imagine it like a diorama or something, like with a shoebox, where you'd hang life bars like at the front, and then all the shit is like happening in the depth. That's how I always thought of it. So if that's not helpful, then I don't care because it helped me. All right, so we're making some real progress. That's not too bad, right? Considering that I've been explaining the vast majority of this, our time still is enough. Then we've got 2 characters on screen, one we can move around, attack with, and the other is now tracking the other character. That's not too shabby for an hour and a half of explaining. That right there, that's a whole week in like assembly or Delphi or C. So, all right, we have a character that we want to hit with the hammer, because, who doesn't want to hit himself with hammers? Now, this is where we start to get a little trickier. The first thing we want to do, actually, what I want to do is I want to add a new sprite. And the sprite I'm adding is an animation of the troll being hurt. So, what this means is that when the troll is hit, he'll go into a little hurt animation. It's no big deal. It's pretty cool. Works out for everyone. But we have to make sure that the character can be hit by the hammer. Now, this is in order to dictate collision with another character, because we don't want the character to hurt each other like that. They have to actually hit it. He can't, Anderson can't just walk into the dude. So we need to make some sort of way for the hammer collision to go with the enemy. What we're going to create now is specifically a hitbox, an invisible object that is created, that gets created when he swings the hammer. It will be created in the spot the hammer is, and then it will disappear after it goes back to standing. And then we will check the collision of that object to the enemy. Make sense? Like, okay, who here are big fighting game fans? Right, love fighting games myself. All of Street Fighter and Tekken and Guilty Gear and all those games, they have invisible hitboxes. Like Johnny from Guilty Gear, like runs in and throws his foot up for a kick. An invisible box, the length of his leg, is being created in there. And then that is doing the collision with the other character. Not the actual Johnny object. Johnny object is just creating the collision object, which then collides with him. Because as you know, you don't just hurt each other by walking into each other. So this, we will do add a sprite for my invisible hitbox. And that sounds kind of silly. All right, so this little block is going to be our hitbox. Let's do SPR hitbox. Then we can reuse the sprite for every hitbox. Doesn't matter. So now what we're going to do is create our hitbox object. Just like normal, create the object, go into create. I'm going to teach you a new thing, but this thing's easy. Alarms are really great and useful. Alarm. You can set an alarm. And what this is telling you is that this number here, number of steps, in that many steps, whatever number you make it, the thing that you set in alarm 0 will happen. So let's say in 20 steps, we want alarm 0 to delete the object, okay? So in 20 steps, alarm 0 will go off. Inside of alarm 0 is a delete object. All right, so what this will happen is when this object is created, it will have 20 steps before it's going to be deleted. We actually, in reality, want, we actually want this to be very quickly, as the axe is not, the axe hammer is not on screen for 20 steps. It's only on screen for a couple. So let's just do like for a. What this makes happen is this makes sure that even if he swings the hammer and it misses, doesn't hit the other enemy, the hitbox will still like go away at the end of the swing. It's not just going to invisibly hang around on screen. That would be very silly. If you just created it, it stayed there, and the troll walks up there and just gets hit by nothing. That would be embarrassing for you. So basically all you're doing here is setting it to go away. So even if it hits nothing, it still goes away and it doesn't hit. We are also going to make it so that if it collides in collision with the troll, it also gets deleted. So what we're doing now is if it hits anything, it gets deleted. If it doesn't hit anything, we're still going to delete it anyways because we don't want this hanging around. That's it, there's your hitbox. Isn't that easy? Now this thing, this little box right here, visible, we're going to wind up unchecking it because if you check it, you'll see it on screen. If you uncheck it, you won't see it on screen. It'll be there, but you just won't see it. In this case, we want to check where we're placing the hitbox. We want to leave it visible for now so that we can see things happen on screen. And then we'll once we've got it just right, we've got it placed right, it functions properly, then we'll just make it invisible, and then it'll just look like the hammer's hitting and not the little purple boxes. So, okay, we've created this new shiny object. What? Save all. Remember, always save. All right, back to work. That's where I take my sip of coffee and realize it got way too cold, and then go make more. Okay. Now, these hitbox objects have to get on screen. They have to be made somehow. What do you think is going to make these objects?
Key press. Key press?
The key press event, yes, that'll happen. But what do you think What object did you make these?
Cooper.
Yep, Anderson Cooper. Because it's his attack block, so Anderson should make them. So we'll ignore Mr. Trolley for a minute, go back to Anderson, and we go, okay. We, for the sake of making this easy, we'll just make it so that that objects are created very easily. Normally in the situation, because he has a rear back and then an attack, in fact, here's what we'll do. To make this super easy for you guys, I'm going to take his attack, and you notice he starts with the frame where it goes back like this. I'm actually just going to delete that, because this will make it a little more sense. Because in order to make it look really nice, what I would do is I'd set a whole different time on set variable that sets up for him to create the object at a certain point in the swing rather than just pressing the button. But for the sake of making this easy, you guys understand, we're just going to do it by button press because it's much easier. So here are your create objects buttons. We're going to create our hitbox. We need to create it in a place. And we want that place to be where the hammer is. So this is where our trial and error comes in. Much like going in and looking at the speeds and then having to go back and change it and go back and look again. We're going to have that same thing here where we're going to go in, try to place the hitboxes, go in and see it happen, and then go, okay, that's not right. I've got to go back and change their positioning. And that's basically what we're going to be using to make this really easy for everyone. Just so everyone can see this. All right. Now you'll notice that I'm going to click this relative box. Whether this box is clicked or not is very important. Because X and Y, if you don't click the relative box, it will literally place them at whatever the X and Y you dictate is on the screen. So if you said 0, 0, it'll appear in the top left corner. If you say X 50 and Y 100, then it'll appear like down here somewhere. So what you want to do is you want to say relative because that means it's relative to the object that it's coming from. So 0, 0 is no longer the top left corner. 0, 0 would be the center of the sprite, center of the object. So let's, for funsies, let's just throw a number in here. Let's say 20, 0. This is a shot in the dark here. We're going to try and make. All right. So, oh, you see the purple block? You see that it appears real quick? Do you see it? Yeah. See it? That is, yeah, you can see it better there. That is the hitbox that we've created, and that is where I have created it on him. Now the problem with that is it's really kind of not far enough out yet. We need to make it kind of encompass where the hit is at. So this is like where your trial and error comes in. Okay, well how about 25 pixels out instead of just 20? We're moving farther out away from you. Okay, that's a little better. But it looks like it's still got a couple pixels to go. Why don't we just go ahead and make it a solid 30? There you go. Now it's out actually where the range of the hammer is. But in my case, what I would do to cover all my bases is I would do something like this. I'd make a second one. So I will actually be creating 2 of these now. There you go. And it covers a bigger range of motion now. So that you can hit it in multiple places now. For example, he won't respond to it because we didn't put that code in yet. But you notice the purple blocks aren't coming up. Why don't you see them?
Because they collided with depth.
What was it?
Your depth?
I didn't hear what was it?
They collided with the troll.
Because they collided with the troll. And what did we do under the collision with the troll event?
Destroyed.
Got deleted, right.
Okay.
So, here, but when they hit the troll, they immediately delete because we dictated that in the code for the hitbox. And the reason you want to make them, by the way, actually delete when they hit their target object is because if you don't, then they're still around for 4 more lines, and they'll basically collide with the troll 4 times, doing damage 4 times, making you go into hurt animation 4 times, that kind of thing. So if you make them collide, if you make them get deleted when they collide with them, Then it'll just happen once. They get deleted, everyone's happy. All right, so that's easy. Now, we want to make a collision control. We want to make that do something. So, we are actually going to have to wrap up in about 10 minutes. We'll start wrapping up here soon. But we're almost done. We've got from moving around to hurting an enemy. Maybe we'll get to killing him too. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a collision with the hitbox. We're now in the troll object here, for those of you watching. So in the troll object, we now want to do collision with hitboxes, which means we want him to get hurt. So what we're going to do something like this, which means we're dictating his getting hurt sprite, so he looks like he's getting hurt. And we even, I'm going to go ahead and add real quick an animation end for him, because we need him to go back to standing after he's done getting hurt, much like Anderson goes back to standing after he attacks. And if we had the time to put it in today, he would go back to standing after being hurt as well. But so there we go. Now what should happen here is when we hit the troll, he'll go into a little hurt end thing, and then after a second, I'll go back to standing. Nice. Not bad, right? Yeah. There we go. But we want to make sure that he is taking some sort of damage. I mean, right now, we're just hurting him, but we want to kill that guy owes money. We've got to kill him. So what we're going to do is something that's good to get in the habit of. We are in the create event for the troll. Enemies need like health, right? You need to be able to beat them and kill them, deplete their health. So under create, so when he's created, we're going to give him a variable that I just call bad health. Since health is the inherent global variable for player health, bad health would be the variable. So let's give him bad health of 5, all right? Now we'll give him this, right? So he's got 3 points in this variable. How about when you hit, you subtract a point from his bad health, or from his health, yeah, his bad health. So now every time you hit him, there you go. So you won't be able to see anything though in actual gameplay, because while we've set this variable, there's actually no way we can see it at the moment. So we're still just, so now his bad health will take to 4, to 5, so he's just going to keep going back. So we want something to happen. So how about we delete him when his health is gone, right? Because that's about guys who are destroyed. Let's do if bad health is less than or equal to 0. Sound good? Basic math. Then we will delete him. Let's try this now. This means after smacking him with the hammer 3 times, he should disappear. You know, the fancy lock, but he'll disappear. 1, 2. Okay, apparently 2 times was enough to kill him.
Because there's 2 hitboxes.
Monster
kills. He loses 2 health every time.
So, well put. But point being is you certainly understand the logic of math and the. So there you go. We've made an enemy, and we are able to kill him. So let's do say. That was us moving. There you go. So now we still have it so you can like super attack. So what we can do, if you want to limit this out, is the exact same thing we did with pressing the keys before. We can do the if sprite index. Remember the movement on the sprite index thing? If sprite index is not equal to Anderson attack, then we can do it. Let's just copy that. Let's just use that on the actual attack. That way he can only start attacking when he's not attacking. So that will make it, along with the I love cookies, which is still there, so that you can't super attack him. You can only attack, see? Now you can only attack when he's not attacking. So that now fixes that little bug. screw you. And now we got a character that walks around, attacks something, kills it, and we even put in some stoppers to make sure you can't do wacky stuff like move when attacking or attack multiple times. So we've put some fixes on those too. And that is the basics of one character moving and attacking and killing another. And that is basically the basics of every type of game there is. And anything you do, whether it be a shooter, it's the same thing. You know, you make like what we're talking about 1942 or something, or Galaga or something like that, or Gradius. You know, you got your object chip, you use your keys to move around, same thing. When you press your attack button, you're creating the object of the bullets. The bullets stream out across the screen, and then they have a collision with the bad guy, and you do the collision and the bad health and subtraction. That is literally the basis of literally every game there is, with the exception of FIFA. I think that's not how it works. So, would you guys like to see this game I was putting together? Would you like to see these characters in real action with abilities and special attacks and effects?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Let's take a quick look.
Anderson Cooper's Hammer Time.
Oh yeah, you have no idea. It's the game is called Heart of the Fates, and all of you put together a team actually of 3 characters you can tag out in between, and they're all homosexual celebrities that all have superpowers. The story involves the 9th circle of hell opening and releasing all these demonic creatures on Earth, and it turns out the Christians got it wrong. In the Bible, God doesn't like it when man lays with man because he just doesn't like spooning. He's okay with gay gays for the chosen people. He just doesn't have. He just always thought it was sort of stupid. So he doesn't like spooning. So, but you can totally be gay. That's like, so you know, so like some of the end enemies in the game are going to be like Glenn Beck and the Westboro Baptist Church, and you've got like Ellen DeGeneres and Anderson Cooper, Ian McKellen. Yeah, that's really great. They all have like powers and abilities for no reason. It's so great.
The amazing James Randi.
Yes, James Randi is so great. But yeah, I was like Queen Latifah, and it was really good. Yes, and Neil Patrick Harris, in fact, here. Let me see, I got I've got like some of the sprites kind of sitting around that I was working with on. And here you go. Here's some of the sprite sheet I was doing when designing characters, so you can see. Tim Gunn is on the left, and then Anderson Cooper, Sirian McKellen in the red, Jane Lynch from Glee, and you got Neil Patrick Harris at the end with the song. He actually turns out to be an angel. He's got like wings, he can fly and everything. You know you play this, don't even pretend. But okay, but yeah, see it in action. I'll load it up here. Now remember, this doesn't actually use keys. This is it'll all wind up clicking around to play because it'll be a touchscreen mobile game where but you'll be able to see all the things in the art in the background and the stage stuff. So, okay, so here is like test stuff. So you can click to make him attack in a direction. And now you'll notice that these enemies are not only facing me, they're just flat out coming after me. But I can do damage to them, not a lot because this is auto attacking. But if I want to do something like one of his special moves like this, so then I can take the screen. Once you clear out a wave of enemies, you walk along, and another wave of more enemies comes. Now I can use another one of my special moves, like this right here, which will root enemies to the ground for a period of time, holding them still for other attacks. All right, now, one of his specials here as well is a healing rain, because he's actually an earth mage in this, for like no reason. No reason. But I can... So look at his health going up, because anytime he stands in the rain, you know, he gains health. So, enemies can hurt me and I can hurt them. And you'll be able to buy stats in a shop after collecting the gold that allow you to have cooldown reduction, power, better defense, more life, that kind of thing. And now, are you ready to see his ultimate? The badass destroys everything on screen. I told you all still. Boom! Over! So those are Anderson's 4 special abilities. So here I'm low on health. I can start this match with some rain. But then the enemies, they get pretty wicked. And for his like that big cave-in that you see there. Wherever you click on the screen is where the cave-in like aims. So if I click up here, the cave-in will aim up that direction. So yeah, you can aim special abilities too, as well as just using them globally. So right now, just because this is a demo to showcase how it works, that's all it does. But it keeps bringing in more and more bad guys so you can keep playing and get like 50 of them on screen at once. Hey guys, I got a present for you. No, I do have a present. Watch it. Oh no, you're gonna get me. Oh, you're not. Oh, fuck you. Oh, fool you. But that is all drag and drop game maker. Since we have a smooth bit of time left, I'll show you another project here so you can understand what I'm doing. This, Pepperpack, this is the game that I am working on with Yo-Yo Games. This is going to be released for like every device, like iPads and Androids and PC and Mac, and this is going to come out for everything. It'll be like a $1 game, but it'll have touchscreen controls. In fact, it already does. You just won't see the touchscreen controls here because I'm playing on PC. Clearly not, iOS. But this game has a lot of art assets. I mean, a lot. Usually when you play like platform or action adventure games, usually the sections of the stage all have like the same art assets that they reuse throughout the stage. In this game, every section of every stage is like completely new stuff. So this is, I'll use my controls here. There's no sound on this one yet, so you'll have to bear with me here. But this is all drag and drop game maker. Now your characters, you first start with 2 characters, Rob and Matt, your brothers. Rob and Matt, if you attack, you get a charged super arena on the top left, you can see. And once you're ready to go, when you release, they do a super move. Rob's is a punch, Matt has kick-based attacks, and his is a super dragon. As you go through the game, you will unlock the other siblings from this very large family. Now, for the sake of debugging and testing and things, I already have them all unlocked. So clearly, I'm not going to show them off now, though, because you have to wait and see. But you collect stars for experience points, which you can see is clearly labeled on the top of the screen. When you reach 200, you gain a level, which gives you bonus stats. Scare the pigeons off. There are many different kinds of enemies in each stage, but they're all themed. In this stage, these cops have all been paid off by some evil Saudi Arabian family who are going to be doing some evil things in our precious United States. But the Peffer family is out to stop them, you see. But these evil cops have been paid off. Now they're trying to stop you. They know you're coming, and they've been paid off, and now you have to fight off these crooked cops. Inside crates, which you'll find throughout the stage, sometimes they'll be empty, sometimes they'll have stars, sometimes they'll have health and things like that. But regardless, you'll always have something worth trying to look for. There are also multiple ways you can go in each stage, like offshoots and ways that you can only see if you get family members. Every one of the characters has different powers, different abilities. Some of them can get to places that other characters can't. So even once you've beaten the stage or beaten the whole game, you're still going to want to go back to the other stages to unlock the new areas that you couldn't get to before, because there are achievements for finding and collecting things that you will find in these areas. But as you can see, like this isn't a bunker city area, just walking through, and now we'll move on to the subway, complete with the train that rolls through in the background. The lights, as you can see on the ceiling, actually shake and swing when the train comes through, and then they'll settle down there. See them up there? It's like little things that I put the effort into. And there's also a vehicle section for every stage because I wanted to break up the monotony of just platforming and fighting. There's a whole bunch of things coded in this too. Like here's your section stage where you're on the freeway where you just dodge cars. Oh, and now at this point you've pissed off the cops, so now they're sending the big guns after you. Now you've got a helicopter with bombs. So now you've then pissed them off. Moves a little faster. It doesn't do as much damage, but it moves a little faster. Now we're into a construction yard where the game introduces moving platforms for the first time and ladders, which you just hold the jump button to climb. The game, because virtual controls can be really wonky and in fact really terrible in mobile games, level up, look at me go. The controls are super simple. There's not even a directional arrows. It's just a left button, a right button, a jump, and an attack. That's it. So the controls are very simplified so that you don't have to worry about running into tons of, oh, I pressed down when I meant to press left, and then that screwed me.
Like someone is playing like the game and they play live, so like when the level changes, it's really cool. And it's today at 8. And something else today.
So like I said, this is if you're somebody who doesn't know a lot about coding or really wants to try the drag and drop system to help you learn, this is all drag and drop. This isn't any actual scripting.
Oh wow. Well, I think much better for AI, but yeah, I know. Oh wow. Okay.
This is boring, I apologize.
There's art gallery for that. That's really good too. If you like.
So I just wanted to get, this is like a cool part I wanted to show you. It's right here. I like this, but I put a lot of effort into this. This is the vehicle section for the stage.
Is it like your friend brought you here? Or?
Oh yeah.
So this is your.
No.
Oh no. Ready to the middle part.
I got lucky by I'm part of.
Oh.
Ooh, Mega Man pose! So yeah, that's just like this is like the midsection of the stage here. At this point, there's actually to unlock all of the siblings that come with the game, you defeat a mini boss. There's actually like a black sheep member of the family named Andy who has captured them all and is like hiding them from you. Here is where the cage is dropped, and the next sibling TJ is in the cage, and you wind up fighting Andy here in a mini boss battle to release TJ. And once you have TJ, then you find your boss, you can switch to him. And every character, when you get them, their special ability is required to make it to the next section. So here, you switch to TJ. Now, TJ is the ninja of the team. He's got like the cool sword slashing. All right? Now his super is he's got ninja invisibility. Boom! So these turrets here will kill you insta-hit, but not when they can't see you. And then you can use it to sneak up behind you because enemies can't see you either. So you sneak up. Oh, suck it! So yeah, that's so this is the character that you pick up in this instant. Well, that door looks breakable. Too bad I don't have a character that can do that. So, but anyways, not to go in too far, too deeper, give it all away. But that's coming this year at some point. Multiple devices. It'll only leave a buck when it does. But if you want to know what you can do with Game Maker, there's a good example. So if you thought it looked pretty cool and played pretty neat, not saying you should buy it. I'm just saying if you thought it looked good, then Game Maker might be for you. So guys, this is the end of our time. I hope you all learned something. If you need anything from me, just come up here. I'll probably give you my personal email, anything you ever want to know, questions or ask about Game Maker, or want to find a good community tutorial videos. I'll be happy to help. So anytime you need me, I'm always around. Love, peace, and bacon grease. Enjoy your MAGFest. Oh, here. Here's a mobile device game I was working on. It was real nice. It was a music game where you touch a block, music puzzle game, where you pick a song and then you touch blocks to play. You'll see. Why am I explaining it? You can see it. So the balls come out to the beat of the music, the faster the tempo of the song, the harder it is. And then you touch them to drop them into whatever column you're over. And you have to match block colors to clear out the way before you top. There you go, guys. Thanks again. Woo! You've been wonderful. I love you. I'll catch you all on the flip side. I literally no idea.